Welcome from the First Presbyterian Church in Burbank. We're glad you're here. Let's join the service now and hear the proclaiming of God's Word.
Galen Goben is a certified thanatologist. He is the Grief Support Director for Forest Lawn in Southern California. He's responsible for providing grief education and services to the community and to grieving families served by Forest Lawn. There have been a couple of times that probably more than a couple, that Galen has come to our aid as a church and me as a pastor in times of crisis and need, and just generously helped us get through some situations. So thank you, Galen, for that. Galen is an ordained disciple of Christ minister who served a parish ministry as a parish minister for 15 years. He's currently attending Fuller Theological Seminary, working on his doctorate of ministry in thanatology. It's a fancy word, isn't it? It's a study of death, is that right? Death and dying. And Galen is married to the Reverend Louise Sloan Goben. She's one of the pastors at First Christian Church of North Hollywood. And together they have 3 boys, Chris, Jeff, and Neil. And we had the privilege of hearing Galen speak in the first service. Wow. It's a very powerful message this morning. So thank you for preaching it, Galen. Before you come up here, let me read the scripture. 1 Samuel chapter 20, we'll read verse 35 and then 39 through the end of that chapter. Listen to the word of the Lord. In the morning, Jonathan went out to the field for his meeting with David. He had a small boy with him. Verse 39. The boy knew nothing of all this. Only Jonathan and David knew. Then Jonathan gave his weapons to the boy and said, "Go, carry them back to town." After the boy had gone, David got up from the south side of the stone and bowed down before Jonathan 3 times, with his face to the ground. Then they kissed each other and wept together. But David wept the most. Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord, saying, 'The Lord is witness between you and me, and between your descendants and my descendants forever.'" Then David left, and Jonathan went back to the town. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Galen.
There we go. All right. Remember to turn it on this time. It is a joy to be here with you this morning. I was sad when I moved to go up to Foothill Christian Church in La Crescenta as the pastor up there, because Ross had just started, and it was nice to find somebody of a kind of compadre there together. And getting up that direction, it was strange how far down it is to come around the mountains like that and all. And so we did kind of separate a little bit, but I was able to get reconnected with Ross, and I'm so grateful. It is good to have that companion with one with whom we share bread. That's the actual understanding of the word companion. And it is a place of safety and hope, and you guys are very, very blessed to have Ross as your pastor. And it is good to be here this morning to share with you all a little bit about grief. I'm going to share some on grief, but I actually will teach you a little bit, but I think there's going to be an awful lot of things that you'll just kind of go, "Oh, yeah. I remember that," because grief is something that we all go through. It is one of the most powerful and most standard kind of experiences that we as human beings have. And Ross mentioned that I'm at Fuller Theological Seminary working on my Doctor of Ministry. This morning is kind of the beginning of my project. There are some of you here I know that are coming to the Thursday night training that I'll be doing on grief and loss, creating compassionate presence, being a compassionate presence. And Ross has just been so generous and kind to offer the space and to offer this opportunity to you all here. So I'm really looking forward to getting to meet each and every one of you that are going to be participating in that. Bye-bye. Yes, Neil, I'm going to go. Bye-bye. Yes, Neil, it's time for me to go. Bye-bye? Yes, Neil, I'm leaving now. Wah! That is an interaction that happened very, very regularly with Neil, my youngest son, who is a special needs child. When he was about 8 to 10 years old, he still goes through it various ways. He's 23 now. And it didn't matter who the person was that was leaving. It could be me. It could be his mother. It could be his favorite person, his Uncle Fred. His brothers. Didn't matter. Neil would ask you if you're leaving, and when it was clear to him that you actually had the intention of leaving his presence, he would break down in tears. Now, Neil, special needs, there's a whole, kind of realm of that. Neil is pretty much nonverbal. He has a few words, bye-bye being one. Y'all being another one, which is his title for Paula Deen. He loves Paula Deen and loves to watch cooking videos. We are grateful to him around the house because my wife has become a better cook. She was always good, but she's become a better cook. I know this is going to be on YouTube later, so I wanted to understand that. She's become a better cook and tried a lot of different things because of stuff that Neil has had us watch. And he's learned a few words, y'all and cuckoo and a few others and things. But pretty much Neil is this nonverbal person. And he has a few words along with a few signs and symbols and things. But for Neil, when he gets in one of these moments, there's not language that he has to try to express what's going on inside of him. He gets the concepts. He understands them. God, emotions are human. They're not something that we design or plan, but they're just a part of us, and he gets all that stuff, but he doesn't know how to express that and to say that except for in tears. And his crying is not a simple few little tears or something like that. I'm ready for my close-up Mr. DeVille, and the camera gets close with that one running down. No, his crying is, as I shared, ear-splitting. And it can go on for a very long time. And for Neil, it comes from here, all the way down in the lowest part of his gut. The Bible calls it your bowels. It is the place where your being rests. The deepest part of who you are, the very center of who you are. And that's where it comes from. And that crying that he does is the one where you cry so hard that you run out of air and you don't have anything more and you keep crying. And then you go and start again. It is with everything. And when he was about 8 to 10 years old, it could take him about 45 minutes to settle down when somebody left. And I would have to stop what I was doing and go and sit with him and hold him so that he could put his head up against my shoulder here, up against my breast, and cry out the rest of it. And we got to the point where we were always glad that we were the one that was leaving. We would sneak out to try to keep from having this happen. But Neil grieves so hard for those who leave because his love for them is so deep. Without language to express his grief, he turns to the language of tears to address that yawning emptiness which he feels in the face of the loss of the one whom he loves. The feelings and the emotions which he has and must be sorted out. Those same ones that you know are taxing and overwhelming. And if he had words, I would love to ask him, so Neil, are you angry that the person has left? Are you mad at them because they have walked away? Neil, are you sad because the joy and the contentment that you have when you are present with them is over? Neil, are you confused? Are you confused because you don't know when you'll get to see them again? Neil, are you hurt? Do you hurt because you wonder, why would this person leave? Neil, are you afraid and anxious? All of this is just too much, and tears become the only response that is from a person who is so overwhelmed and overloaded with emotion. David and Jonathan, they lay across each other's shoulders according to the text, and they weep. Their bodies, racked with sobs for the necessity of leaving one another, has now become very clear to them. David and Jonathan are deep and loving friends. The kind you have where you meet somebody that first time and suddenly you are just simpatico. You are companions, you are together, and you just feel so comfortable in their presence. Well, that was David and Jonathan. But now they have to break apart. Now they must separate because of King Saul's madness and his jealousy over David. Saul is certain that David is planning a revolt and planning to take his throne and destroy the kingdom that God had given to him and keep Saul's own son, Jonathan, off of the throne. Saul has set his mind to capture and to kill David, and Jonathan has learned of these plans, and he has called out his best friend out into this open field to tell him of these plans, to tell him to be careful, and to have this one last moment to say goodbye. It is clear that it is to be armed conflict between David and Saul, and that this is the last time that David and Jonathan will ever see each other. Again, reading verse 41. After the boy had gone, David got up from the south side of the stone and bowed down before Jonathan 3 times, with his face to the ground. Then they kissed each other and wept together. But David wept the most. Their grief is great. In their tears and kisses, they seek to express somehow the vigor and extent of the love that they share. The sadness of their circumstances penetrates down to the very core of their being, and there are no words for their pain as they begin to separate. They weep for their loss. They weep for the danger that they are in. They weep for the end of their relationship as they know it. They weep for all those plans that will go unfulfilled. They weep for the undreamed dreams that they would share. They weep for all that dies as their relationship comes to an end. They weep because tears are the only language to speak of their grief. Grief is the experience of the loss of something that we treasure. It is with us our entire life long. From the very first broken toy to the death of a beloved soul, grief is a companion with us our entire life. It comes in the change in a job or a career. It comes when we move into a new home. It comes when the children move out. It comes when we redo a sanctuary or set a new course for a church. Because it means the necessity of letting go of formerly comfortable and established patterns and the expectations of life. Relationships change, dreams may go unfulfilled, and the physical locations of so many good experiences must be left behind. It is the loss of those treasures that bring us to this powerful and life-altering experience that we call grief. Tom, Jeff, Jim, and I were 4 good friends who had met in seminary. And we had gone through seminary, and a couple of us had gotten married, and children had been born, and we had struggled through all the stuff that seminary and that time in your life brings for you. And now we had come to graduation. And it was time to go. Tom was the first to leave. Tom headed off to Ohio to go and be a prison minister. Then it was Jim's turn. And Jim and his wife Paula headed up to the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, where they are Methodist ministers today. Jeff hung around for a while until he went to go and be a missionary in South America. And I am left. As each of us began to go off to our place, we would gather, ritualizing our separation. We would go out to dinner, sit around and eat, roasting the one who was leaving, telling stories, enjoying one another's company. And then at the end of the evening, we would raise a glass and toast to that person's goodwill, good health, for all that we had known together. Share tears and go our way. Through the ritual, we recognized and honored what we'd shared. And we also honored and recognized what we were losing. It was a sign of the deep love and the great respect that we held for one another. Through the ritual, we gave expression to that which we could not verbalize. A time was ending for each of us. And rituals, you see, help us through a new kind of time. They help us through this time where we find ourselves, the time where we are no longer who we were when our person was alive. And we are not yet who we will be when we have processed this thing called grief. Rituals help us in this strange and alien land, this liminal space, as we call it. And as we move through, and these rituals help us, just as we will share today. A time when Jesus was here. A time when he will be here. And a time when he is here with us now in a new way. Rituals move us step by step along the way. And when we move that way through, we come to a new place, a new beginning that is before us. Joyce Rupp, in praying our goodbyes, says, "For the Christian, hello always follows goodbye in some form if we allow it. There is or can be new life, although it will be different from the life we knew before. The resurrection of Jesus and the promises of God are too strong to have it be any other way." So rituals help us through this space and time. They give language to our souls, and they honor that time that was, and that relationship that is transforming, and that prepares our soul for something new. Again, Joyce Rupp offers this wisdom. I believe that if we are willing to move inside the heart of the experience, to live patiently through the process, even as we acknowledge the difficult and painful emotions, that we can experience the wonder of spiritual growth and the marvel of new depths of faith in our relationship with God and with one another. To move inside that experience is the process called grieving. This process called grief, honored and experienced, gives us the courage to actually love again. Because we know that the genesis of our pain, the place that it starts, is the fact that we love somebody. Leo Tolstoy says, only people who are capable of loving strongly can also suffer great sorrow. But the same necessity of loving serves to counteract their grief and heals them. And grief acknowledges what a beautiful, beautiful thing that we share. It was the great philosopher Winnie the Pooh who said, how lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. From Neil and David and Jonathan, we can learn a way how to work through our grief. Neil, you see, moves deep within the heart of his experience of grief. It is there in the center of that loss and pain. Tears are the only language for the ache and the sorrow that he feels. And he is neither afraid of the tears nor the depths of the sadness that they express. The love that Neil shares with his beloved is the root of his pain. Were there no shared love, there would be no pain. But it is also his trust, because he trusts that love. He trusts that love and his willingness to express and experience the pain that then unleashes the healing abilities of the love on the heart of his sadness and that mends his wound. The Sufi poet Rumi says, the grief you cry out from is what draws you towards union. David and Jonathan do not deny the depth of their loss. That is evident again in their tears. But they trust what is in the future. They trust that God is already there to bless and to guide and to devote attention to their healing and their well-being. It is this that we hear in Jonathan's blessing of David. Let me share that with you again. Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace. For we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord, saying, the Lord is witness between you and me and between your descendants and my descendants forever." Forever. The Lord's blessing between us. Such a blessing would help us to walk through the darkest valley of grief, fearing no evil, because we know that nothing can separate us from the incredible love of God that has conquered death in all of its forms. And bound inexplicably to God's love is the presence and well-being of our beloved, who is no longer near but close with God. Such a blessing would state clearly the love that our beloved and we share. And such an awareness expresses our gratitude for the other. Such awareness offers forgiveness for any brokenness that we may still have between us, and leaves us open to receive the same from the other. These blessings, these rituals of separation could be daily active gifts that we give to our loved ones. Imagine, just imagine, every time that we leave our beloved, we have stated just how we feel about the other one. Such expressions would leave no unfinished business between us. We're here at the beginning of the year, but we have just finished a time too. All the Christmas decorations are down, and that kind of looks normal, and yet it feels a little sad. We're here on the 12th day of Christmas. We got one drummer drumming, but no Lords a leaping. So Christmas is over, and this year is open and a wide expanse before us. So we stand in between today from what is done and what is yet to come. So let me leave you with this. What change would it make in our living if every time we left another's presence, we did so invoking the blessing of God, God's watchful eye, to rest upon us both, and then to trust that the space between us, however wide it may be, is filled with the absolute presence of God. Might the world be electric with God's presence, thus keeping us ever in touch with those whom we love? And might we build a better world? And might we better be able to remember just how lucky we are to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. Amen.
We hope this service has been a blessing to you. We also invite you to join us to worship in person on Sunday mornings. We have services at 9:15 and 11:15. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you.